So thank you very much for coming. Mihai tells me he's got quite a lot of material, so I won't delay starting any longer. So if anybody else turns up, then we won't be waiting for them. Just as a reminder, the GSE conference will be observing the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock. So we'll be pausing the presentation for 2 minutes then. Okay, so without delaying any further, Mihai, over to you. And thank you very much for agreeing to present.
Thank you, Nigel. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. We're going to look at storage data. So show me data, centralized storage management. We're going to get into depths of how Vantage can make storage intelligence available to the storage administrator, and not only. And also we're going to look how reports are being created and delivered. A few words about myself. My name is Mihai Ficiorița, and I'm with Vantage for the last 7 years, out of which the last 3 as a product owner. Okay, with that being cleared out, I'd like to mention about this year charities, Royal National Lifeboat Institution and Guide Dogs for the Blind, if you can show them support. So, session abstract. Automate reports and customize dashboards to create views that are important and informative to your needs and share them with others in your organization. There are quite a lot of words here that I'll have to touch on. And in the next slides, we're going to look at what does it mean a dashboard in Vantage, how you can share storage intelligence with your peers. And also we're going to learn more about how you can automate scanning of your DASD to collect storage intelligence and proactively alert on issues that are found. So what is Vantage? In its name, Vantage Storage Resource Manager, I would like to emphasize on the manager aspect or manage aspect. Although SRM, being the short name, can be understood as monitor. That's not to say Vantage cannot do monitor, but the scope, it is manage. So Vantage can give you storage data, allow you to monitor the various thresholds that you set, and allows you also to take actions on those various conditions. A little bit more about Vantage is that is with us from the 80s when it was the first version of Vantage released. And together with that version, we're going to get to see what means first storage objects. I'm going to touch on the Vantage objects on the next slides. Was released also the 3270 user interface. So from the beginning, Vantage came with a UI in 3270 console interface, but that was the way how you could see data. That interface is still supported today and shipped with the product. So if someone would like to use it and found any kind of problem, we do support that interface as well. In the 90s, Vantage Windows Client was introduced that boosts the productivity, introduce wizards and the friendly user interface that as well, it is still supported today. And I'm referring to Windows Client, speaking about the latest version that is out there, not the version that was released in the 90s. Anyhow, in the 2016, we released the MTCM, or the web interface for the Vantage. That one of the major advantages is that is platform independent. So where Vantage Windows Client have to run on a Windows environment, albeit could be a personal computer or a server, it must be running a Windows operating system. Where Vantage MTCM runs in the OMVS, so it stays on the mainframe and can be accessed through a URL from pretty much any browser out there, Safari, Internet Explorer, Mozilla, Chrome, and others. This being one of the advantages, but there are more to it. So that was a brief introduction on the Vantage, since when it is being developed and what UIs are available for you out there, all of them being supported today. So how Vantage shows data. And I'm going to go through all of this, assuming that maybe not everyone is familiar with Vantage. Although for those who use Vantage, this might be somewhat obvious. Storage administrator mostly view storage data. And I use here mostly because Vantage can show more than storage data. Throughout the years, we have interfaces or developed interfaces with various programs. So integration with various Broadcom software like SysView is possible. And SysView will gonna give you performance data if you wish. But we're gonna focus on the storage administrators. So Vantage can provide data from one or multiple hosts in a table format, which we refer as Vantage objects. So Vantage object is essentially a collection of data stored somewhere in the Vantage memory that can be made available to the users through the UI upon request from one or multiple hosts combined. So also this is important. I'm going to touch a little bit on this now. Maybe also later on we'll see how fast we go. So in the event of having SAMs running on, and SAMs being the started task running on the host, on the mainframe, you can connect to one or multiple hosts, Vantage host, and request data. You can choose to see data from one host at a time or from all the hosts. So this is customizable. A use case that I have now in my mind would be that you would like to see total allocation, storage allocation. And you can do that by looking at all Vantage started tasks that you have out there. Or you'd like to see the total allocation for one LPAR, then in that case, you'll connect only to one. So Vantage object in the table format. This is being used as a building block, if you want, to create dashboards, reports, dynamic objects such as join, summary, and delta objects, as well as customized views. We call those views user views because usually the user of the product create them by applying filtering, sorting, color conditioning, switching from chart view to table view. And once that is the user get desired result, we're going to save that definition, and that definition will be available for the user for at any point in time to be reused. So I'm going to get in to speak about this in the next slides. And let's have a look at how you can access this intelligence. So Vantage objects are available in the UI object tree. And given that when we ship the product or out of the box, when you install Vantage, you have shipped in the product or available for you over 1,500 objects. And to preserve a structure of these objects, we organize them in the object tree. Here on the right side, I hope you can see, is a screenshot of the object tree. So in this example, I expand dataset management. I'd like to see information about datasets on that specific LPAR. And I have the following objects visible in this screenshot. All datasets that would contain the object we call DTOC4C that contain all the details about all datasets that are on that specific LPAR. Duplicated datasets, HFS and PDSC datasets, and mounted ZFS files. These are objects that we provide for you to access. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to create any object. On top of this, you see expanded here in this structure, or nested under the all dataset objects, user view, summary objects, join objects, and delta objects. For some of the objects, we provide out of the box some custom views, as well as summary, join, and delta. And I'm going to discuss about them later on during the presentation. But all of this can be created by users. Summary, join, delta, and user view. So to be able to find what you create months ago, the tree structure allows you easy navigation and allow you to find very easy the user view create, for example, sometime in the past. Also, you notice there is a search box on top of it, but we hear from customers, some create tens of user views, some others create hundreds of user views, and it's quite complicated to remember what's the name of the user view I create. Right, so moving forward, how does it look a Vantage object? And we're going to spend a little bit of time here to see what capabilities are out there and what an object contain on top of the data which is in the table format. So in this view here, I will going to start on the top left. I hope you can see my mouse. And on the top left, we have 3 buttons. The first one, it is the relation button. And next one, it is the action button. And then the third, it is the user view, create a user view. Under the relation button, here you can create either automation scripts, you can create summaries, dynamic objects, you can display statistics, and also you can access the dependent widget, we call it. I'm going to get to that a bit later in the presentation. The next button, available to all the objects, so what I'm speaking here applies to everything, to all those 1,500 objects, are the action buttons. Although on the relation button, those are more or less the same for all the objects, the action button contain different actions based on what object you access. So for example, here, I'm looking at space and other attributes object, and actions for this object will be add volumes to low watermark, or add volumes to fixed gigabytes limit, or adding volumes to storage groups that is relevant for this object. While for other objects, like all data sets that you've seen it before highlighted, actions there would be delete dataset, archive, backup, release idle space, uncatalog, and everything what it makes sense for that object data. Another important thing towards the action is that all the actions can be used by automation. So what you can do here in the object, you can do through a script in Vantage, and we're going to get to see that a bit later. The next button, create user view. Well, I'm going to touch on this when I'm going to speak about user views on the next slides. We're moving to the right side. Here we have the table view, and you can switch through via the next button to the graph view. Also, you can export the content of the object. And we arrive to the gear button. This is quite important because here you can customize the object per your needs. So now I'm looking at one object that have 226 lines, as you can see here on the bottom right. I see data in bytes. Everything is in bytes, it's raw data. And I see all the storage groups, SMS or user-defined storage groups that are available on that LPAR, particular LPAR. Accessing the gear button, I can apply filter, sorting, I can apply thresholds, I can set the object mode, and I'm going to get to that object mode immediately after. So customizing the table to display the most relevant data to my that I need. Going forward, we have the refresh button, and the refresh button will collect a new set of data. And this is a good segue into the object modes. So on the bottom right here, we see some information. Type is data, because I'm looking at the table containing data. The mode, it is LE, that is last interval. And afterwards, I have a time and date stamp and the total rows that are available. So in this case, in this particular object, the default mode, it is last interval, and that is when the data is collected, is being saved in a file or in Vantage memory. And whenever I refresh this object, or I click on the refresh, I'm going to get the data sample that is being saved in Vantage memory. However, from the gear button, I can change the object mode to real time, for example, if that is supported, and it is for this object. And when I click refresh, then Vantage will gonna go and collect a new set of data about all the storage groups that I'm seeing. So I presented two object modes, and there are two more: snapshot copy and disk interval. Although not so prevalent as last interval in real time, they have their own advantages, and you can find those maybe in objects related to tapes, an example that I have now in my mind. All right. On the bottom left, we have here the ID of the object. In this case, the ID is pools, and we have the system name and the started task name, the Vantage SAMS. All right, so that left with three buttons on the top right here. The eye will gonna hide all the controls here, gaining some more real estate. We have help on object, which is quite important. The help on object will gonna give you information about how data is being collected. So it is exactly what is happening to get the data. Is it a script that is running, is being collected at a given time, or whichever way, how the data is collected? It will gonna explain the actions that are available, what they do, and also we're gonna give you some more information about all the columns. All right. And the last button that I will mention about, and maybe I'm going to come back a bit later when we're going to discuss about dashboards, it is maximizing, which is the top right one. In this case, maximizing will not give me too much more of screen screen state, but when we get to dashboard, you're going to see the benefit of it. So that's how that is the table in Vantage, data, covered it, and what all these buttons do, and what the data means from the footer. Right, so custom table view. Custom table view, user views are somewhat synonym. So this presentation, it goes with the use cases, and for this table view example, say that storage administrators would like to analyze the storage groups allocation and extents. So what the view should contain. I'd like to see all the storage groups with more than 250 extents. I'd like to have them sorted by the cylinders in the largest free extent column. I would like 3-color conditioning applied for the various thresholds that I define. So I define for the storage group percent allocation. I want the scale set to gigabytes to be easier to be read, and set a relevant description, hide unnecessary data columns, and save the definition so I can reuse or share with my peers. So from the previous object, if you remember, when I was showing the pools, that's what we end up with. And let's take a moment to look at this object, the new object. On the bottom left here, we see that the object ID remains pools. So it is based on what I was showing before, storage group allocation, that object that we provide out of the box, but it contains a different kind of information in this table. So what we have here, we have 69 rows, and they are sorted different. They are highlighted, those which have higher allocation with color conditioning. You can see here on the top, there is a filter marker and the sort marker. So we know that the data is being filtered and sorted. Allocation, it is in gigabytes, is more readable. And also here on the top left, you have two new buttons, that is save or save as. So if you are happy with this view and it's something that you would have to come back to it next week or next time when you'd like to see the fragmentation of the storage groups, then you would like to save this view. So you don't have to apply again the same color conditioning and filter and all those. So you can save as a new user view. And then by clicking that, you will gonna store a copy of this object under the user view, which will be nested under the storage group objects. So you can easily access it back. Dashboards. Dashboard, it's a long discussion about it, but in a nutshell, a storage administrator would like to see in a single view current data about two selected storage groups, their volumes, and historical data for the storage group's percent allocation. So my dashboard should contain 3 objects. One with a storage group used by a production application with color condition applied for the percent allocation, a dependent widget, and I'm going to get back to this, that show the volume of the selected storage groups. So on the right side, I'll have a view with volumes. And on the left side, I'll have a view with the storage groups. And a third view that will going to show me a chart about the storage group percent allocation for the last 3 months. All of this in a single view. So with Vantage dashboards, you can get there. And I really hope the picture is large enough so you can follow what I'm showing here. But let's have a look at this dashboard. So top left, I have the relevant name of the dashboard. Description, for the moment, is a private dashboard, not shared. That's the description. And then I have the 3 Vantage objects. On the left side, the storage group, which is filtered. I have the percent allocation highlighted. And on the right side, I have the dependent on pools here in the brackets, and then storage group volumes. So this object would normally contain all the volumes that are online on the system. But this object, we're going to change the data sample based on the selection on the first one. So if I'm going to the space and other attributes, first object, and selecting the line 1, then I'm going to see on the right side the 7 volumes which belong to this storage group. If I'm going to select the second line, which contain 87 volumes, then here I'm going to see a list of 87 volumes that are online on the STG TSO storage group. And that's how the dependent widget works. And at the bottom, I'll see percent allocation for the storage groups for the last 3 months. Here at the bottom, we see a timestamp. So in this case, at the time when I took this snapshot, it was start of 7th of July, 2021. And it goes to October 16th, 2021. So I can follow the progression, what happened with the storage groups throughout the last 3 months. Now, it will be just an example. I'm not necessarily a storage administrator, but I assume that everyone would be interested why this drop is here, what happened. Did someone allocate too many volumes? Did someone delete data sets? What happened? Is it expected, unexpected? So I know that around 17th of September, allocation decreased from was 76 to roughly 26, 30%. Worth noting that you will not be able to find out the answer in this view, although it would be ideal. It will still give you a good starting point. You can discuss with the application owner, you can discuss with the storage administrators what happened. Did someone allocate volumes? Or it's a good starting point. I'll cover briefly what the chart view offers. So of course you can set the XY axis, you can change the chart types. There are quite a few available out there. Stacking, splitting, and exporting. So everything in Vantage objects can be exported. Okay. Good. So I'm going to continue moving away from the dashboards, but before moving away, important to note that dashboards are available much like the objects in Vantage in a tree format, which can be accessed from the left menu sidebar here. One is for the hosts, the next one is for the objects, the third is for the dashboard, analytics, scripts management, I'm sorry, GIS utilities, and a configuration button. So they are available for a later use. You save a dashboard, and here it is a private dashboard, much like when you save a dashboard definition, you can save it as a private dashboard or as a public dashboard. That makes it, I'm really sorry for that. Everyone who accesses this instance of MTCM in this case will be able to access your public made dashboards.
Mihai,
yes,
we'll just do the pause now. Sure. I'll alert you when it's over. Thank you. So it's 11:02. That concludes the 2-minute silence. Thank you very much, Mihai, for your understanding. Please feel free to continue.
Thank you, Nigel, for heads up. And also I use the time to attempt to fix my voice. I noticed, and the gray question, I'm going to come back to it. So I'm going to continue for now with the dashboard. Actually, we cover the dashboards. So let's move on. Reports. So reports, I have a use case here. I must stay informed about the storage group extents. So the space utilization is used at peak efficiency, and the information must be delivered after nightly processing ends and distributed via email to a certain group. So in Vantage, you can create reports, and I have here two samples. On the left side, it is a report sample created by SAMS, or Vantage started task, that is running on the mainframe, where the data is not presented in such a formatted way as on the right side report, but essentially it's the same. So on the right side, I have a report generated by the Vantage Windows client where the data is formatted, and you have there also the colors and well, it is more readable format. To highlight something, a difference between them is that for any reasons, Windows environment where Vantage Windows client runs, it is down or does not have internet access or any problem that might be there, this report might not be delivered because Vantage Windows client will not be able to reach the host to collect the data. While on the right, on the reports delivered by the SAMS host task, there is no dependency on other environment. So this report will gonna come anytime, as long as Vantage started task, it is up and running. All right, so that's how the reports looks like. They can be sent to one user, multiple users, distribution list. Joined objects. So we're now getting into what we call dynamic objects in Vantage. And while we do provide some dynamic objects, users can create as many as they want, much like the user views in Vantage. The difference, one of them, and there are many differences, but one of them that I'd like to highlight is that a user view can be saved in a database of the UI that you are using, Windows or web, while dynamic object definition is saved in a PDS member, saved on a host, and accessible to whoever access to that, connect to that host, independent on the UI. So the use case here is that I need to see combined information of datasets on a system and their SMS management class. The view must show. I'm really sorry for my voice. Only the SMS management classes that contain datasets created by my program, details about SMS management class, only my program datasets that are unused for 180 days. All my program datasets, even if they are not SMS managed, show only data columns in my interest and reorder it so that dataset name is in the first column. And lastly, save the definition for later use. So what Vantage can show me? Here, I have a joined object created from the all datasets object. That is the parent object. Now, all datasets object in this case contain roughly 2 million rows. And you can see here on the bottom right, I have 37. 37 rows or entry points that highlight datasets used by my product that are not referenced or not used for more than 180 days. I can see details about the management class, who accessed it last time, last time and when it was accessed, the time, and so on and so forth. Plenty of data entry points that could be interested in this scenario, but also like to highlight on the line 20 and onwards. These are not SMS managed. So now with this view, I can go ahead and decide what to do with these data sets. Maybe they can be backed up, migrated, or deleted, or whichever the case might be. But that is essentially a joined object. There are 3 types of joined objects, but I would not get into details now because automation is something that is coming, and I would rather invest more time there. So I'm going to move to summary objects. So I need to see statistics about data sets that have a considerable amount of free space. The view must show data set with more than 50% idle space, data group by fixed blocks, variable blocks, or undefined record format, count maximum, minimum, total, and average data. I want data to be displayed in gigabytes, and I would like to save the definition. So then, if you remember, I was telling you that all data set objects contain roughly 2 million records. Well, that 2 million records, I shrink it into 3 lines. Where the first line is showing me is make a summary of all the data sets that are fixed block size, count them, show me the total allocated in gigabytes, 232 gigabytes. The next one is a variable block, and the next one is unspecified. So this is just an example and one use case. There are many use cases out there for summary objects, and there are 4 types of summary objects. This is a filter method. But if you'd like to see in details more about the rest of them, there are YouTube videos out there for Vantage summary objects that explain how they work. Essentially, not that complicated, and there are wizards to create join, summary, and delta objects. So you're going to have a step-by-step guidance how to create them. Okay, so we get to delta objects. Well, delta object is, in my eyes, a powerful tool, if you wish, but not much used by the customers. I'm willing to show you a use case that I have it here and how it works. So I need to know how much data was allocated per day on a storage group so I can investigate exceptional allocation and ensure space availability. The view must show allocation in gigabytes for every day for the last 30 days. I want to get sorted by date. Highlight variation higher than 50 gigabytes in the allocation and save the definition for a later use. So this is what Vantage can create for you. Let's take a moment to look at this object. So first, must know that data coming to this object or to delta objects, it is historical data. So in order to have historical data, Vantage must run a logging script, something that I'm going to get to more towards the end of the presentation. Bottom line is that you have to configure a script to create historical data, but much like dynamic objects, you have wizard available, and it's relatively simple to create. We're going to get to speak about the logging scripts. Anyhow, once that is configured, I can go ahead and say for this object, which I have historical data, I would like to see the variation in allocation. So you see here, the storage group name, SG temp, 30 days. Last 30 days does not mean necessarily 30 entries, because this is my task, and if I don't start it, then no one does. And when the started task is not started, the automation script, the logging script does not run, does not create data. And I'm going to highlight one of that exceptions here. I have delta allocated by gigabytes. So let's get into the details. First, we start from none, which here is 28th of September, and here would be 27th of September. But because this is out of the range, there is none. Anyhow, going to the next day, 28 to 29, I see here that there is a decrease in allocation of 2.9 gigabytes. The next day, it was allocated 0.1, the next day 1.2 gigabytes, and so on and so forth. Now, here when the variation is higher than 50 gigabytes per day, or per day, from the previous to today. So here it from the 5th of October to 6th of October, there were allocated 77 gigabytes. The next day, 6th of October to 7th of October, those 76 gigabytes were deallocated. Something happened there. So I can go ahead and investigate, but also I can imagine this could be a special processing at the beginning of the month. Although I can't say it from this view, but it's a good starting point. Something that I mentioned before. So here on the line 3, I see 68 gigabytes were freed from the storage group. And looking at the dates, I'm seeing that the difference is from 16th of October to 24th of October. Probably had vacation, I don't know. I don't recall that event, but clearly it is not 1 day step, but it's more like 8 day step. So 1 week. The difference is not from today to tomorrow, but the difference is from today to next week. Anyhow, worth investigation if this is unexpected deallocation. So in a nutshell, this is the Delta object. I think it's quite a powerful tool to give you insight about allocation. You can see, yeah. So there are so many use cases out there. I choose to highlight this one. If you'd like to speak more about Delta objects, please let me know. We're going to continue with automation. So far, we looked at how Vantage show data in an object, what an object it is, how you can access an object, what actions are available out there. Well, actually, we touched on, not we don't, there are many actions available. How you can create dynamic objects and how you can save custom views from the parent object or base object. Now we're going to move into the automation component, and Vantage language script and automation components allow storage administrators to automate tasks that are time-driven or event-driven. So 2 things here. Automated tasks. So as I mentioned before, all the actions can be used by Vantage automation. So whatever you would do in Vantage manually, you can do in Vantage automatically. So if you have a process that every day you have to, giving an example, allocate some volumes per volumes to a low watermark or you name it, that is being repeated, you can automate that in Vantage, saving time. And time-driven or event-driven. So where time-driven is, I want to do something at a certain day of the year or a certain interval, and that is time-driven. Or event-driven, I want to react on something. I want a script to be out there, lurking in the memory, and when something is happening that I defined, then take the actions that I also define. So Vantage scripts can be created using UI wizards. I mentioned that already. Similarly, like you can create dynamic objects. Right, so 3270 UI does not have a wizard, but the Windows and the web do have wizards. So I'll just enumerate the time-driven scripts, system scripts, audit, log, and general object automation. So here are 4. And the event-driven script, it is message automation, that is 1. Let's get to system scripts. So system scripts are responsible for correcting the data in creating several objects. So on the right-hand side here on the screenshot, you see an example of such object. So mounted ZFS data is being created by the ZFS DSN NS script that we provide with the product. So how that goes, you install Vantage, and in the sample library, there are several system scripts. The system programmer or storage administrator, it very much depends on who performed the installation. will copy those scripts to Vantage automation library. Now, that is good, but that will not going to give you any data in this object. The script is available for you to use or configure. And that's two things. One, use. So this is the case where I'm using the script. I'm accessing the object. The object does not have any data. But to create data for the object, I have to run the script. And here I have the actions button, create action, run the script. The script will run on the mainframe, will collect the data and present it into the object. The second scenario is that you configure the script and say, this script should run every Monday, 1 a.m. or every day, 1 a.m. or whichever the scenario might be out there. And the script will run, will create data for you. And next time when you access the object, you're going to get data sample, that script collected beforehand, and you're going to have a timestamp on the bottom right, as you see there, when the data was collected. So you know that is the allocation situation from this morning, 1 a.m., for example. Again, just an example. You see here below, other actions that are available for object, unmount CFS, for example, or create and mount. Every object, I think, has pretty much the different actions for. So this is just to enforce that. Vantage audit scripts. Audit scripts are responsible for providing input for various audit reports, such as DFS, MS, HSM, uncataloged these datasets, ARCH-VOLs, and others. The same as for the system scripts, the audit scripts are being shipped by us and works identically. So you have to copy it from the sample library to the product automation library. You have to either configure it, either run it. One of the examples that I'm highlighting here, it is for the uncataloged this dataset object. So this one will have no data until DSNUCTL script is manually run or set to automatically run at a given time. Okay. Right. So when you one thing that I have forgot to mention, when you click configure the script action, it will actually open the wizard and it will explain you all the settings available for the script. So we get to the log script, and the log script we touch a little bit on when we speak about the Delta objects. Or if you remember the chart you've seen in the dashboard, the data have to be created by the logging scripts. So the logging scripts are responsible for collecting the data at a given time and store it for a later use. The logging script can be configured from the parent 3-dot menu, but that's not the only way how you can do it. So here, this is the snapshot of the object tree in the MTCM or the Vantage Web UI. It has a 3 dots menu. All the objects have these 3 dots menu. You just need to go there with your mouse, and it allows you to create a log script, for example. Or you can go to the script manager to create a logging script, or you can have it in the menu in, for example, Windows client. There will be an automation menu where you can create as well the automation scripts. Important to note is that only one logging script can be active for one object. So you cannot have 2 objects, 2 logging scripts, logging the data or collecting a snapshot of data from the same object, but only one. So they run at a given or set time, and they will gonna store the data at a predefined high-level qualifier that you can define it. You can control it through the VKG parameters, which are plenty. I will not get into that, but Vantage configuration parameters. So once Vantage is configured, not much actually to be done. You go from the UI with the wizard, create a rule if you want, or automation script to store historical data. You click next, next, next. You get to the end. And at the end, all the scripts will have the following options: save, save and activate, or save, activate, and execute. So save the script to a PDS member in the automation library. Activate is load the script into Vantage memory, and execute, you want to run now. Okay. Well, let's continue. Vantage general object automation scripts. All right. This is quite powerful tool and much used by our customers. So I have a use case here. I need to monitor and react on the storage group extents, volume, free space, fragmentation, and unused datasets. In Vantage, I can set up a Go script that starts execution on Saturday night and has 3 phases. 3 phases. To a brief explanation is that you have the violation filter criteria. If the violation filter criteria is met, there are records which are as a result of that filtering. The first phase start, execute. At the end of the first phase, if there are still records that match the violation filter criteria, the second phase start, and so on and so forth. Pardon. So what the script does, or how this execution goes. The script Saturday night start is applying the filter violation and select all the storage groups that have more than 250 extents, if any. If there are none, then the script stop the execution. If there is at least one, then the first phase starts. And in the first phase, I zoom, and I'm going to come back to this zoom, to all data set from the selected storage groups and filter all those that are unused for more than 180 days. So let's break this down. So the script zoom to all data sets. What actually does is the script open the all data set object containing 2 million of records and filter all data sets that belong to the storage groups that match the violation, the one from the here that have more than 250 extents, and then filter out those that are unused for more than 180 days. So when you have that job done, the Go script will gonna run the object action disk archive. So that's one action, and the second, we're gonna wait 600 seconds and issue a command to trigger a new Vantage pool scan. So that is first phase. After another 600 seconds, and this 600 seconds is set by the user. This is just my example. Or the end of the job, whichever comes first, continue the processing. So if at the end of the phase 1, there are still volume storage groups with more than 250 extents, proceed to the second phase, where I zoom to all the volumes, part of the selected storage groups, and filter all those that have allocation over 90%. So I leave behind the storage group object. I'm looking at the volumes. I'm selecting only the volumes that belong to the storage groups which match the filter or the violation filter criteria, and submit a job. So what I have here, I have a defrag job that uses some utility and a Vantage variable, which is kind of important. However, from this, I've just seen it before. From this JCL, I'm missing the repeat end comment, which you will going to see it later on. What it does, so in the second phase, it gets all those volumes that have more than 90% allocation and belong to the storage groups with more than 250 extents, and perform the fragmentation. Submit the job, right? After next 600 seconds, issue a new Vantage pool scan. And I'm cutting corners because I think we're running out of time. If at the end of the second phase, there are still storage groups with more than 250 extents, proceed to the phase 3, otherwise stop. So in the phase 3, I want to filter all the prod storage groups, prod something storage group, and inform distribution list, storage administrator, for example. And here you see the repeat end, right? So here the mail will be below STG is required further investigation. Last poll scan was done at time and date when the last poll scan was done. And here the pool name will be repeated for all those which are matching the filter criteria. Well, this could be somewhat complicated to understand. Again, if time would be on my side, probably I could spend more on this. It could be Goa script made of one phase. So you go there, check the condition, met the criteria, do something, end. All right. And very briefly, I'm going to get to Vantage message automation script, which is I want to ensure the volumes are correctly added to the storage groups by the Go automation script to ensure the space availability. When a volume fails to be added to the storage group, Vantage creates specific messages that can be intercepted by message automation script. So essentially what my script is doing. I tell the script execute maximum 50 times throughout the SAM's address space uptime, search for these messages, 1150, 159, and all those. Whenever that message, you see it, inform the responsible group via email. Essentially, it will grab that message from the log, it will put it in the email and send it to storage groups, in this case, storage administrators, I'm sorry. So I can automate adding volumes to storage groups, and I can automate failures of doing that automation on the first side. This is just an example. It came up now, but this is the message automation script. So it does not have a time to run at, but it has, it waits for an event to happen so it can execute, perform the action that it was written in the script. So this is my last slide. It's like top of the hour, but a summary. So to take away, Vantage provide more than 1,500 objects on which you can build more. Objects can be fully customized to display the most relevant data. Dynamic object can summarize, join, combine data from two objects, create deltas. And all of this can be shared with other Vantage users. And Vantage can automate repetitive tasks and respond to events. And that was my last slide. I'm really sorry for my voice, but thank you for attending this session.
Thank you very much, Mihai. Timekeeping is absolutely perfect. And we do appreciate your efforts to continue despite your voice doing terrible things to you. Okay, so if anybody wants to ask questions, then there's the chat window, or you can unmute yourself. There was a question from Andy Gray earlier on, but you actually answered that later in your presentation, so I guess that one's handled. Are there any further questions? If not, then it just remains for me to thank Mihai very much indeed for an excellent overview of Vantage. There's certainly some stuff in there I didn't know. The Delta objects were particularly interesting. So thank you. It's very good stuff. So with that, I'll close the session. Thanks for attending. And again, thanks Mihai for presenting. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. I wish you a good one.